You guys already know where we're driving, right down Woodward Avenue, the historic, the legendary Woodward Avenue, the only major street that has all 4 sports teams right on it, within a block, within walking distance. That is Detroit. Hey, teams, get better soon, please, because it's going to be epic, especially during these times of the year. Yeah. Hey, chat family, thank you guys for choosing to kick off the morning with Wake Up Woodward. We got the Woo crew in the building. Shout out to Flannel Sam, who will be on Big D Energy today. As always, you guys are the most important part of the show, so please go ahead and smash that like button. And once you have, encourage somebody else to do the same. We really appreciate it.
Yes. So Kool-Aid, it happened.
Yes, sir.
It happened. TRAJAN Langdon was officially named president of basketball operations for the Pistons.
Yes, sir.
Which came like 18 hours after the release of Troy Weaver as general manager.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess first, before I tee you, I think you sense where I'm going with this, but how do you feel about how everything went down? Good move, bad move, just get us going with this conversation.
Yeah, this is a move that you can't call it bad by any stretch. It doesn't matter where you lay on the spectrum of Troy Weaver, this organization or whatnot. You had to get some type of new blood into this front office that would represent the centralization of power so that you have one voice that is able to now go out there and make sure that everybody that he brings in underneath him is operating in harmony and in sync. That's something we haven't seen, or at least has been speculated that hasn't really been taking place over the last few years and the last couple regimes. So now you get the opportunity to be able to have somebody into this front office with all the power, that's what we're hoping, and be able to bring in his own GM. I am more in support of that move, no matter what I do feel or don't feel about Troy Weaver. And as it relates to Troy Weaver, that's a situation where, and I was telling you this too, KG, like, how dare people act as if to give Troy Weaver any benefit of the doubt in this situation when we're hearing rumblings that some signings and deals might not have actually been his and that he might have been taking bullets. How dare people try and say, you know what, you can't take it for Troy, he's awful, he's this, he's that. Look at everybody of success over the last 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 regimes who's come to this organization. And one thing I know is this: Tom Gores hasn't spared the expense there. Good coaches and good front office personnel. Troy Weaver had a starting record before he got here and a starting reputation. Dwayne Casey, Stan Van Gundy. These are people who have won in this league and accomplished and gotten to higher levels. And when they got here, this organization is one that not even them were able to kind of pull up while working with this kind of structure above them. And so as you're moving forward with the TRAJAN Langdon, my hope is that you let this guy just cook. Just let him cook. No meddling, only supporting, let him cook and let his vision be what drives everything else forward. Because TRAJAN Langdon, just like Troy Weaver, just like Dwayne Casey, just like SVG, they come to this organization having a reputation that is really, really good. Troy Weaver had the same thing said about him as TRAJAN Langdon is right now at the beginning. And I'm not going to blame these people more than I'm going to blame the structure that was there before them. Yeah. And still there at the top. So.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And for anything, for his sake, I'm glad he's out of this situation because, like you said, he came in with a sparkling record, and then his time here, it did not work out. And now you look at him, he's tarnished to a degree because of everything that has taken place, which of course wasn't all his fault. But my question is more towards the timing of all this. So they wanted to keep Troy Weaver because if they were going to fire him, they would have fired him like before or after the exit meetings. But they decided to hold on to him. And then they said the new PBO would have like full autonomy as to what to do with Troy. And then we don't get an official announcement of TRAJAN Langdon until Troy Weaver is fired. So my question to you is, do you think that TRAJAN Langdon maybe kind of strong-arm the organization? Like, hey, I want to bring in my own personnel. Until you get rid of Troy Weaver, I'm not making this thing official. Because the timing of it all seems weird. Like he posted on Twitter that he was the PBO and, we never got an official announcement. What would you say to that?
Well, one, when you go back to the exit interviews, and you can go back and check the tape, on the first time that anybody really said, yeah, that guy is going to be gone, it was a lot of us that were already in that media room. Why? Because usually at the exit interviews, we get to talk to Troy Weaver. And we told you guys, I say, yo, we're not getting Troy. So that already was a sign on the wall already that there's probably going to be some movement. But number two, he got offered a different role. I think it's a little mix of what you're saying. Okay. It's not necessarily like fire him, get him out the organization. TRAJAN and Troy, they got a good synergy and a good relationship. They know each other. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, the NBA circle is only so big.
Right.
They offered Troy Weaver a scouting position.
Yeah, and that's where I was headed to next. Is that just like with Dwayne Casey, this is a guy that the organization sees as a plus basketball mind, and they made an offer to try and retain him in the organization so that they can continue to build this army as it relates to former basketball players, former coaches, former people within the fabric of this situation, of the NBA. You know, and one of the things as I continued to do my research, I found out was Troy Weaver was one of those guys who actually through his career signed a lot of Arntelem clients.
Really?
Yes. Including and drafted them. Russell Westbrook, Steven Adams. And yeah, so it's an interesting kind of pyramid or triangle that we see going on here. But I hope that that answers a little bit like, do I believe TRAJAN wanted to be able to enter and say, hey, I need my GM that can operate the way that I state? Yeah, because I think that gives you your most singular voice from decision making to execution to be able to make things happen and present one vision to Tom Gores rather than multiples or like with Monty Williams when Tom said at the press conference, there was some yelling, there was some this, there was some that. You know what I'm saying? It's like that type of stuff. Like you got to eliminate that and just have everything down to one voice that's representing the front office, speaking to the owner to make something happen.
On that note, Kool-Aid, what are the chances? Did we all just assume that because they created this PBO position that they were either going to fire Troy Weaver and hire a new GM? Is there a chance that TRAJAN Langdon wants to do this all himself? Like, are they going to hire a new GM? And if so, does that need to happen before the draft?
They definitely, I believe, need more front office personnel because with Troy Weaver going, you're going to have new scouts and new support staff that enter. What those support staffs are, if it's like an actual GM or not, I'm not sure because one of the things I do like about TRAJAN Langdon as president of basketball operations is that he's been able to train closely with guys like David Griffin, who has a really, really, really good record around the league and good relationships with people. And he got a feel, in a sense, for what that job actually entails. But he was doing that while he was also a general manager. And his general manager record, his eye for talent, and not just his eye for talent, which we can say Troy has an eye for talent, but his eye for being able to try and put that talent together to try and work. I like the way that he's tried to put the puzzle pieces together. I hope that his draft picks and his selections here are just a little bit more healthy than some of the prior places he's been at.
All right, so I know you may not have much on this, but just seeing the Troy Weaver news, I can't help but wonder, what does this mean for Monty Williams' job security as well? Because, me personally, I kind of chopped it up to, okay, it was his first year, new personnel, young players. He was kind of thrust into a situation that I don't 100% think that he wanted to be here, but he got an offer he couldn't refuse. But going forward, and seeing how things played out, what do you think Monty's job status is at this point? Is he on the hot seat as well?
I'm actually really glad you brought that up because one of the caveats that we discussed when Monty Williams was hired was this: if your GM didn't hire the coach, but your owner and the front office executives ahead of him did, then that means that Monty Williams actually has more power than your GM, who you gave no president of basketball operations power to. So guess what Troy couldn't do? He could not walk out there on the court and say, play Jaden Ivey because I am the president of our basketball operations. With the TRAJAN Langdon, it should be clear as it relates to hierarchy. This is the guy with the power. So what he says goes, which is a little bit different relationship between the coach and the president of basketball operations and just the coach and the GM, whom this coach I didn't hire. Right. This coach I wasn't bringing in. The owner went and brought him in. So whose word is going to ring a little bit more? The guy who they cashed out on? Or the guy's GM who they didn't, for whatever reason, trust to give the PBO job to, the title as well. So when you're looking at a TRAJAN Langdon, this is a guy that's coming in that actually runs the department, not just tries to identify talent. So if Monty Williams is going to acquiesce to TRAJAN Langdon, then yes, I believe everything is going to be okay. Everything. But obviously, if this is the coach that's going to move forward, then it's on TRAJAN Langdon to make sure he goes and helps to field a good team. And that's one of my questions is, what's the strategy? Whenever the press comes, what is your strategy moving forward? Is it to kind of build around this young talent that you have? Is it to utilize this young talent to accelerate things? Are you looking to take your time, or is there an urgency to get this thing turned around immediately? And I just can't wait just to kind of pick his brain and be able to see what the strategy is moving forward. And it will tell me a lot more as it relates to Monty Williams.
Yeah, it seems there's a lot that has to happen in a short period of time. At least just putting the NBA draft is like a bumper out there where some things need to be in place. He obviously doesn't need to have his entire staff figured out, but I feel like this is a pretty big moment, especially as a new PBO. Like, does he still trade that number 5 pick? Is he looking to build? Right. And these are the things that you were just talking about. Is he looking to build around this core, or is he looking to ship that number 5 pick out as part of a trade for a veteran or for a star or for just something? That maybe an 18 to 21-year-old can't provide.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to get those answers and kind of see. The most important one to me, or interesting one to me, is do you see this as something you have to fix right away, or are we in store again for another 4 to 5 year rebuild? That's the most interesting question to me right now.
I don't think the fan base can handle another 4 to 5 years. I think it's absolutely a sense of urgency to get this turned around quickly because
no. Look into the camera and tell them, bro, you could do it in a way that even I can't even do it anymore. Like, look into the camera and you tell them the sense of urgency. Straight up.
Listen, you are losing the fan base day by day by day. You guys absolutely have to have a sense of urgency to turn this thing around, or else you're going to lose the fans. Like you said before, even though the Pistons suck, they were still at LCA. They were still down there supporting, but that's only going to happen for a matter of time before people just stop showing up. And it would be right on them to do so, because if you're not going to care about this team, why should we? So absolutely, please come in with a sense of urgency to fix this thing. And I guess my last question to you would be, and I know it may be like a redundant question, but who is anybody safe on this roster? Is everybody expendable? Maybe even Cade Cunningham? I wouldn't do it, but is anybody safe in regards to, like, you know, going forward?
Yeah, there are no golden calves, but it would take a golden offer to pry Cade Cunningham from me personally.
Yeah.
I believe he is the type of player that you want to build around. So you can't say with a roster that's been kind of with an organization that's been this down with this young talent, you can't say anybody's untouchable. You can't. But me personally, I wouldn't trade Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
I like the prospects of Cade and Jalen Duren, but there are some other kind of bigs on the market as well that intrigue me to have a little bit more defensive instinct. But I know that Jalen Duren is still young. So
yeah,
Cade, maybe a Duren, and I love what Asar brings to the table. I like Jaden Ivey a lot. Let me just put that out there. I like him a lot. The logic speaks to the sense that he might be the most viable or likely trade candidate, but I like Jaden Ivey a lot. And so, yeah, but Cade is probably the closest to untouchable for me. Everybody else is potentially trade bait.
Before we go to break, have they announced a press conference yet, or is that still?
They still
up in the air?
Haven't announced.
Gotcha.
It.
No, nothing you can do about that. I just like these answers we want. I know a lot of Pistons fans out there. They want them too.
Hey,
so
Wheezy D1313. Trust me, you guys already know me if you've been following the content for 2 years. To me, Cade is an untouchable. But to a new GM coming in, and you know this is your most valuable asset is Cade Cunningham. Period.
It's a similar conversation to Scooble. It's like, none of us want to trade
it's a Scooble
either of those guys. But when we're talking about
it's
a team
untouchable.
like needing to make not necessarily a turnaround, but like, well, the Pistons, it would be a turnaround, but a transformation, a shift, speed up a rebuild or a restore. Those are the two guys that bring you the most value. Not that any of us want to trade them.
Right.
They're your best players. They're like our only slivers of hope.
And you talk about people who are doing it on the court and in the community. That's Cade Cunningham. That's his family. You know, shout out to Cannon, shout out to Ashton, who have really supported us since we've gotten started as a network, as Woodward Pistons, and the Wake Up Woodward show. You know, those are just good people who do a lot of good in the community, and there's no media coverage. I had to go and investigate for a couple of the articles that I did. I was like, bro, first, why is it so difficult to just pull this information out of you directly? Because they're humble people. And two, why is there no media coverage? Because that's just how they liked it. That I love. There's no press release. There's none of that type of stuff. And then you're on the court and you're hooping. Heck yes. That is untouchable for me.
Yeah.
But to TRAJAN Langdon, it's going to be a situation where if somebody offers freaking 3 or 4 first-round picks and a couple rotation players, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So it gets tough.
Yeah, you'd be crazy to pass that up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's nobody, but you got to give me like a platinum.
Oh, it's got to be
offer.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's got to be an unfair deal. Like
Herschel
Detroit
Walker
has won for the next 2 or 3 decades.
Yeah.
You just need to do something that brings the fans back in, like KG said, because you've already unfortunately seen it with the Tigers. The Tigers used to sell out regular season games all the time when I was growing up, and now I can't tell you the last time I saw it more than 2/3 capacity.
I feel bad. I feel bad for your generation. I just do, man. Like the hypest nights have been like jersey retirements.
I grew up and I saw the back end of every team being good pretty much. And then it's just gone into the gutter.
I don't even know if that's worse or not. Like, I feel like that might be worse. Like,
it might be.
You saw a little bit of the glory.
They tantalized me. They were like, here, we're in the World Series against the Giants. Oh, we're in the Stanley Cup final against the Penguins. Because I wasn't old enough to remember the 08, but I remember 09. And just blue balls, and it's just brutal out here.
Yeah, it is, man.
But hey, listen, appreciate that you got that perspective though. It's nice knowing like I have a connection to something great. I kind of had the same thing with the Bad Boys. Yeah. So hey, cherish those moments, and we get to see the revitalization of our teams as a crew now, man.
Yes. Speaking of,
yes, sir.
There's some revitalization going down in Allen Park this week. Tomorrow starts mandatory minicamp.
Hey, that's what I like to hear.
For the Lions squad. It's one Pride Month, right?
Yes, sir.
So the Lions are about to do some work down there. Got some clips we didn't get to see last week, but I think they're going to lead into some great conversation about the coaches and about some offensive players that we're going to be talking about this week. But first, let me tell you about our friends over at Dispo, because you can visit Dispo Dispensary today.